Greetings, good morning, and welcome to Mind the Moment, brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Health Care. This, my friends, is our coffee house in the cloud, a place where we invite amazing mindfulness instructors to talk with us about what mindfulness means to them and what it can mean for you. We'll be practicing together and then giving you an opportunity to let us know what's on your mind. I'm John Roberts. It is October 29th, 2020, which just so happens to be National Hermit Day. The Tao Te Ching, which was composed sometime between the 6th and 4th centuries BCE by a figure known as Lao Tzu, has been referred to by some as the first great work of hermit literature. In it, Lao Tzu writes the following, quote, "A leader is best when people barely know he exists. Of a good leader, who talks little, when his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, 'We did this ourselves,'" end quote. In recent days, we've been going forth to choose our leaders, but every day we choose the parts of ourselves that we wish to lead with. In consideration of Lao Tzu's example, I hope that I may learn to lead by listening, and in doing so, making space for all those whom I encounter, and in doing so, making all those whom I encounter feel welcome to bring their best selves to the presentness we are sharing. Joining me today, as she does most Thursdays, is someone whose presence is always a present to me, the founder and director of Harvard Pilgrim's mindfulness program, Ms. Tara Healey. Good morning, Tara.
Good morning, John, and good morning, everyone. Happy to be with you on this Thursday morning. It looks a little gloomy out there, but I think it's kind of cozy.
Tara, do you have any advice for those hoping to be good and mindful leaders?
To be good, mindful leaders. Well, you know, John, there was something you read in there that sort of struck me, which is, people sort of not even noticing or thinking they've been part of, what has made positive change. So, it's one thing I will tell you that it was sort of words of wisdom from my mom related to this is she said, no one that really wants power should ever be in power. And there's a lot in there. And I love that, that there's some truth to that.
Oh, thank you to the elder Mrs. Healey for that. So in just a moment, Tara will be taking us into a 10-minute guided meditation. Then we'll open the floor for Q&A, which is where we'd love your help. So do take a moment, open up the chat box, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. Using that chat box, ask us any questions you may have or share any comments that may come to mind. Tara, is there something you'd like to ask the folks to chat in about as we're starting?
So for those who have been joining over the past few weeks, you know that I am asking you to tap into the sense experience. So, sight and sound and scent. And we've gone through a lot of them, but today is going to be, and then for those of you that are new, essentially the question is, today it's going to be taste. So is there a taste that you savor, that you love, that brings you comfort? Is there some flavor that evokes some sense of joy or comfort?
All right, so for the folks viewing, what are the tastes that provide some comfort or just evoke the memories, as it were? So while folks are taking some time to type, please know how grateful we are that you've set aside these moments to be with us and with each other at our virtual coffee house today. Keep in mind that only Tara and I will be able to see anything that you type, and if we don't have a chance to read your particular question or comment out loud, please know that we do read and value them all. As we close, which will be right around 9 a.m., I will make note of a few more ways you can stay in touch with us as well. Somebody says, definitely chocolate. Somebody else says, sort of sweet and creamy foods have that, evoke those feelings. Homemade apple pie with French vanilla ice cream. I was putting together a cranberry pear tart last night, and there was
Oh,
something in the crust that it was something, yeah, that something about the butter and the sugar, which just kind of, lit up the sensors in my brain. Somebody says pumpkin anything. Tara, what about you? What do you got?
I'm going to say coffee. Even as a child, coffee ice cream, like that was like my absolute favorite. And, there's something about like just waking up and being excited about the scent of it, but the taste of coffee, I just love. So it's something very consistent in my life. Like I have a cup of coffee every morning and I look forward to that coffee. And so there is a kind of comfort in that.
And somebody says that the rice pudding from their home country of Colombia brings up a lot of warm feelings. Somebody else says oatmeal, which oatmeal, it's a classic. So, all right.
Nice.
Okay, so moving into, I guess before we move into the meditation, I'd love to
Yeah.
preface this, Tara, in a particular way. So over the next several weeks, Tara and I are going to be talking about what's referred to in the mindfulness world as the hindrances. And I'd like to start our exploration there with an examination of that term. Tara, could you describe what is meant by hindrance, but also tell us if there is a term that you prefer to use rather than hindrance, which is kind of an old-fashioned
Yeah,
term.
hindrance is like, yeah, it's like an old-fashioned term. I mean, basically all it means is that um, there are states of mind that can get in the way or make meditation hard. I mean, that's probably the simplest way to put it. And it would be things like sleepiness, which is so common. Oftentimes when people meditate, they actually doze off and then you're no longer meditating. So there are antidotes to all of them. And, one of them for just sleepiness would be do a standing practice. And yeah, so sleepiness is one. I mean, another thing would be restlessness, this feeling of restlessness. Yeah, like doubt is another one. Why am I doing this? Is it really working? So there are these states that can get in the way.
Well, so Tara, let me pick up on doubt. That is a challenge. I think it'd be great to look at. It's a very, for lack of a better formation, a very doubtful time that I think we're in right now. And here's one way that I think that doubt figures into many people's mindfulness practices, including
Yeah.
my own, which is that age-old meditator's dilemma. How do I know if I'm doing it right? Especially when sometimes it feels like I'm doing it wrong. As a way to sort of guide us into your meditation, do you have thoughts on how do we know if we're doing this thing correctly?
Yeah, yeah. It's I think the reason that question comes up a lot for people is because there are societal ideas about what a good meditation looks like, and we're steeped in those, right? We're steeped in those ideas. So this feeling like when I meditate, I'm supposed to feel a particular way. I'm supposed to not have any thoughts. I'm supposed to be calm. Agitation is not supposed to arise, and those are all misconceptions. And so I think people sometimes think they're doing it wrong because they sit in meditation and they feel anything but calm. This practice, though, of mindfulness and mindfulness meditation is that ultimately over time, our relationship to these various states of mind, like agitation or unrest or anger, it's not that they ever go away. In fact, like the Dalai Lama will tell you that they don't go away, but we relate to them differently. They become less problematic and they drive us less. And they still arise, but they're just not as much of a problem. And they also pass more quickly. And so that's, so as we're in meditation, if an uncomfortable body sensation or emotion arises, we simply want to acknowledge it. You can even name it. Like, you could just say thinking, but you could be more specific, like agitation or a particular sensation in the body that you're noticing that might be uncomfortable, I would say, what's the raw data about that? You would want to go to bring your attention to that. So if it's a cramp, what does the actual cramp feel like physically? What's the physical expression of that? Go to that. And when you feel ready, return to your primary anchor, generally body sensation, breath.
Okay, let's give it a try.
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so again, you can do a standing practice. So for those of you that might be feeling tired, I would do a standing practice with eyes open but gaze downward. Otherwise, if you feel like you've got good energy this morning, you want to just sit in a way that is relaxed and easeful to the degree that you're able, with a spine that is straight but not stiff. Allowing the eyes to close or remain open but gaze downward. And just for a moment, allow yourself to settle into the posture you've chosen, standing or sitting. Just see how things are. Like what kinds of sensations is the body offering you this morning? Perhaps aware of the points of contact with the back of the body and the surface that you're on, or the soles of the feet. From your activity of the day so far, noticing pulsing or vibration or the heartbeat. And let's begin by letting go of what has happened so far today and release anticipation of what's to come, bringing the mind and the body together in this moment. And as we're settled in, just for a moment, become aware of sound in the room that you're in, or perhaps outside of the room. Just receptive without labeling what's making it, but just hearing. And as you feel ready, beginning to narrow the focus of attention, coming back into the body, allowing sound to remain as it will. Bringing the attention back inward. And start to notice the rhythm of your breath, allowing your body to breathe all on its own. No need to make it different or special. See if you can become aware of where that sensation of breath is most noticeable. Is it the belly, somewhere around the abdomen, the area around the chest or the nostrils? It could also just be the whole body breathing in and whole body breathing out. So as you breathe, paying attention to where you're aware of sensation most prominently. And let your attention land there, serving as an anchor for the wandering mind for the rest of the practice, knowing that the natural state of the mind is to wander. So as the mind wanders and you notice it, that's a beautiful moment. And in fact, it's a pure moment of awareness, of seeing. Oh, you can just say thinking. Make a soft mental note. You can be more specific if you want. Soften the body and then return to the anchor you've chosen. So I'll be silent for the next few moments and I'll check in occasionally and just ask you to notice where the mind is. Noticing where the mind is. Soft mental note, soften the body, and return attention to breath sensation. You are doing it right. And again, noticing where the mind is, releasing thoughts, softening the body, returning to the breath. In just a moment, you'll hear the sound of a chime, and I'll ring the chime once, and you can move from awareness of breath and breath sensation to sound, tracking the sound all the way out until you can no longer hear it. And as you feel ready, if your eyes were closed, opening the eyes and reconnecting.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you for that. Uh, all right, folks. So I want to make sure everyone feels welcome and encouraged to ask Tara any questions you may have about mindfulness practice in general or doubt. Uh, as you contemplate and type, Tara, I'd like to turn us back, if you wouldn't mind, to that issue of doubt, talking about a problem that I have. It's probably a common problem. Sometimes in the morning, I'll be reading the news on my phone, and I'll end up reading about how a particular public figure is lying about something. And what arises in my mind are very hurtful thoughts directed towards this public figure. After a little while, those thoughts do abate, but then I will inevitably scroll down and find myself reading something else that will cause still more hurtful thoughts to arise in my mind with the exact same intensity as before. And I'll think to myself,
Yeah.
isn't mindfulness supposed to help me dial down the volume on my reactions? but it seems like the volume always stays at the same level.
Mm.
And so what's the good of mindfulness in the first place if I just keep having the same reactions over and over again with the same intensity?
Yeah. Yeah. No, good. Really good question. Yeah. So
Feels to me like that.
there's a few things in there, John, that I would say is one is, just having the expectation that reactivity is going to be dialed down. Because reactivity, it's a common mind state, especially with things that are provoking us in some way. In this case, the politician who's not being truthful, like, or the political figure or the lead, whoever you're talking about. Like, so but I think that there is the possibility to have that reactivity, but it's not bothersome. It's just, you begin to notice it as it's just a mind state that has arisen. It doesn't have to overtake you. You can have some balance with it with continued practice. And the fact that you're seeing it is really valuable. So you want to see it, but then take it a step further. As my teachers would say over and over again, there is the common everyday knowledge, I'm agitated. And then there is the knowledge that this particular situation has created a chain reaction in you of thoughts and emotions and body sensations. That's where you're bringing the lens of mindfulness. So the first is, you don't see it in a deeper way. You see it in a more sort of surface way, which can enable reactivity to be a little higher. The other thing I would say too is bringing in the lens of compassion. Like, is it possible to see this person as a human being, that desires the same things that you do, but has different ways of going about getting them? And that, and as human beings, we all want similar things. We want to be loved and accepted. And, and so is there the opportunity to bring, a lens of compassion? With difficult people, that is not an easy practice.
Well, and as you're talking, I realize that another way of looking at this is that, even if I'm not experiencing my reactions as diminishing in their intensity per se, at least mindfulness is acting as like sort of a firewall between those reactions.
Yeah, it's a good word.
Around me, right?
Yeah, that's a good word. It is a bit of a firewall, and I think no matter what, one of the most profound teachings in this particular practice is that every thought, emotion, and body sensation has a nature to change. So with the agitation, if you can see it and you see the chain reaction, you feel the physical expression, whether or not you act from it or out of it, it's going to go away. So that's also another way to kind of look at it.
Well, so Tara, somebody in the chat box is asking a question. Let me just review this for a moment. Let's see here.
Yeah.
So the person's saying, I find that sometimes when I bring my attention to the breath, it makes the breath feel special or different. I think as this person's becoming, very, very, very conscious of it, right? Mm-hmm. And so do you have any tips, Tara, for how to attend to the breath, but without changing it? So I think the person is asking, when they pay attention to the breath, it actually causes that to change through the attention. And, and I suppose one way of asking the question is that okay? Does that mean that I'm not paying attention to the breath?
Right.
Or I'm just paying attention to my paying attention?
Right, because then, yes. That's a pretty common experience. It's like when we shine the light on something, then it brings our attention to it that can change it. And we're really trying to let the body breathe all on its own. So one technique to try would be letting go of a narrow focus of breath and just bring attention to the whole body. So see if you can, sometimes the focus is that it's too narrow. So I would experiment with just widening that lens of awareness. And you can then, keep coming back, see how that goes, and then widen as you need to. And you can use other things like, you can use sound, and you could also, some people can't use the breath typically because they have an illness or something which makes breath hard. So you could use a sensation of your hands either together or even on your legs, just those touch points. So don't use the breath at all. So there's a few things you can experiment with, but just to know, it's really, that is a common thing.
And Tara, one way I've heard this described, and you can tell me what you if this seems right in your experience, is that you're paying attention when you're paying attention in meditation practice. It's like there's like maybe like 5% of the way that you would normally pay attention. Like you're keeping an attention activated, but it's more of a diffused attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's also a really good way to think about it, John. But I think a lot of this too is, just a little bit of trial and error, and that the hyper focus on the breath, which can then shift the breath, which is what you probably don't want to be happening, that can change over time too. So you might like back off breath, use another body sensation like a point of contact, and come back to breath, and dipping in and out of it. But I also just want to say, I know we're close on time, but thank you everybody for all your comments and questions, and just I know John and I are the only ones that can see them, but I really appreciate the engagement.
Well, Tara, that's actually, I think, a kind of a beautiful note there to end on. So, so rest assured, we'll be back every Tuesday and Thursday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you do have any questions that we didn't get to, or if any questions come to you later on in the week, please email them to askmtm@harvardpilgrim.org, or you can leave me a voicemail at 617-509-7047. Now, if you're looking for an exceedingly convenient way to add these sessions to your iCal or Outlook calendar, look no further than harvardpilgrim.org/livingwellatHome. And while you're there, check out the other free wellness resources offered by Harvard Pilgrim. Those include live virtual yoga classes, live virtual Zumba classes, and a variety of wellness webinars designed for adults and kids alike. Now, pain is something we all have in our lives, but how we deal with pain can make a huge difference in the quality of our lives. Please check out the free resources around mindfulness and pain management, which we're offering in partnership with our friends at Mindful Magazine. Those resources can be found at mindful.org/pain. Our Facebook page is always available for conversation and inspiration at facebook.com/mindthemoment. And finally, you can rewatch this session, older sessions, introductory sessions, and interviews which Tara conducted with leading mindfulness researchers on our YouTube page, youtube.com/mindthemoment. A closing quote, if I may, from another great hermit philosopher, Milarepa, who lived in Tibet in the 11th and 12th centuries. Milarepa wrote, "At the beginning, nothing comes. In the middle, nothing stays. But in the end, nothing leaves," which I think is just another way of saying, stick with it. It's going to get better, and it just might be worth it in the end. Tara, I never have to question the worth of spending time with your guidance. Are there any final thoughts you'd like to share with us as we close?
Yeah, I guess what I would say is, as you move through the day today, since one of the things we've been tapping into are the sense doors, and taste was today. So use today as a practice to pay special attention to your meals and the taste and the flavor and the texture that bring eating in as a mindful practice today.
That's great. All right, thank you so much, Tara. Thank you,
Thanks, everybody,
for joining. We will see you soon. Have a momentous day.